I just spent 3 incredible weeks in Japan, and I can't stress enough how much right now is the absolute perfect time to visit. We'll now in this video go through 7 key reasons why you should visit Japan now and how you can plan for your trip. If we haven't met yet, my name is Mario and I have traveled to over 135 different countries while working full-time. I live in Denmark, but I have a long connection and love to Japan. So I have studied Japanese for over 6 years and I just find the culture fascinating. So let's go. One is that Japan has never been cheaper. So it wasn't long ago when Japan was considered an expensive borderline luxury destination, and that is not more the case by a long shot. So the yen, the Japanese currency, is right now the cheapest it has ever been. So it's trading now between 130 yen or 150 yen to the dollar, and that is like 40% cheaper than it was just 1 year ago. I don't need to tell you, 40% is a lot. Seriously. In practice, this means that you can travel to Japan and get access to the incredible places you can go in Japan, good hotels, eat well, and use all types of public transportation, including bullet trains, and do so for a smaller budget than in places like North America, Western Europe, and even other countries in Asia. And I repeat, this has never been this cheap. To put it into perspective, I even took taxis when I was in Japan, and hey, have you ever heard of non-billionaires taking taxis in places like Tokyo? This is completely new. So you can get incredible value. The last 2 times I was in Japan, I had to be careful on my costs, but now I stayed in nice hotels, including the traditional ryokans. I ate out in nice restaurants almost every night, took, as I said, taxis, and even splurged on the free week rail pass. It was totally worth it. And just one more point on this finance side is that at least now versus what it was a few years ago, cards, meaning credit cards, debit cards, are more widely accepted now than it was just a few years back. There's still many cash-only places. Japan is famously very cash-focused, but now it's a lot better than it used to be. Number 2 is that there are so many attractions. So I just spent 3 weeks in Japan, again with the family, and even though we have been, what you think, a decent amount of time, we only scratched the surface. So let me give you some highlights of key things to check out. Number 1 is obviously Tokyo. So Tokyo is a must-see destination for anyone visiting Japan. With its skyscrapers, neon lights, the world-class museums and galleries you get, Tokyo is a vibrant and exciting place and has something for everyone. Even parks, the Meiji Jinchu Park is amazing. If you're also a foodie, you have a lot of nice restaurants. It's kind of a foodie paradise for many people. And on top of that, Tokyo is a great hub to see a lot of things close by in Japan, or at least close by with these bullet trains they have. So for example, ourselves, we went to Mount Fuji at Kawaguchiko, we went to Nikko, where they have the amazing temples and where it's amazing place. And then we also went to Nagano, where you can, for example, see the snow monkeys and the mountains. It was super nice. Next up are the temples and shrines of Kyoto. So the ancient city of Kyoto, the ancient capital of Japan, Kyoto, is home to some of the most beautiful and reverent temples and shrines in Japan. You could even say in the whole world. For instance, one of the most favorite places I have in the world is the Fushimi Shrine that is in Kyoto. It's absolutely stunning. And again, this is just one place. It's that you can spend, we spent 1 week in Kyoto, you can spend 10 weeks in Kyoto and not see enough. So it's an incredible place. But now, let me add 2 more off the beaten track places we have visited this time, which I completely recommend. Number 3 is Koyasan. So Koyasan is the sacred mountain for Japan. So it's an absolute must-see if you have the chance and you're a spiritual person. So it's a peaceful and serene location and it's home to many temples and shrines. But most interestingly, the ancient cemetery of the Okuno-in is probably the most atmospheric and enchanted place I have visited in a long time, if not ever. And as I said, I have seen a lot, so it's a must visit. And one of my, let's say, key regrets for this last trip is not to spend even more time in Koyasan. We had to actually leave after just 1 day, unfortunately. And last, number 4 is hiking the Nakasendo. So the Nakasendo is an ancient highway that runs through the mountains of central Japan, historically connecting Kyoto and Tokyo regions, right? So it's a beautiful and historic trek that covers, again, some stunning natural beauty, beautiful mountains, but most interestingly, at least for me, you have some Edo era towns, so the era before Japan opened to the West. You can actually see some towns and cities that look exactly how they should look like 200 years ago, and that was amazing for me. Incredible experience. Just by the way, when you visit Japan, just keep in mind that when you go to places like this, not all the hotels will be available on booking.com or Airbnb or the places we're used to in the West. So try using, for instance, Rakuten, which is a Japanese company, or Agora to book the hotels, because you might have more options. And also to book ryokans, which are the traditional guest houses. I use a website called Japanese Guest Houses, and it worked very well. So definitely check that out. And again, it's not all in booking.com. Next up is that Japan is just now opening up and there are less crowds. So one of the biggest perks of visiting Japan right now, and this could be, like changing very soon, is that you will not have to deal with a huge crowd of tourists. Again, Japan just opened up to overseas tourists. No strings attached. Again, you need to have a vaccine registration or something like that, but beyond that, it's all free for all. And it's taking a bit of time to have people wake up to the fact that you can actually go and visit Japan, no strings attached, because it was not like this until just now. And this means that you can see a lot more in a lot less time, and you can fully immerse yourself in a country's, let's say, culture without film or world with so many people around you. And if you're looking again to avoid crowds and you have more authentic and fulfilling experience in Japan, again, now it's a perfect time to go. Just keep in mind, of course, that there will be crowds. They're just gonna be a bit smaller, right? So I was in Kyoto and it was quite crowded, no doubt about it. Universal Studios and the Nintendo World, it was packed, you couldn't walk. But when I was hiking Nanakasen, as I said, I was almost alone the whole way. When we were in Koyasan, we almost had no other tourists when walking from the Okuno Inn. And when we went to the Snow Monkeys, we were just there with them. We didn't have like 25 million people in between us and them. So this will no doubt change as we move further into 2023. But hey, if you are fast, you might still be able to get a good deal here. Next is that Japan is the cleanest place in the world. So Japan is known for being super clean and organized, like no news there. And again, like the cleanliness is such a big deal in Japan, and it like actually shows, right? So everywhere you will go in Japan, you will see streets and sidewalks that are spotless with no trash, no anything. They're not even trash cans, famously, right? So, but again, I just wanted to also express like, why is that Japan is so clean? I'm actually so interested about this because the idea is that the big sense of community they have in Japan and the social responsibility the Japanese people see for example, their own neighborhoods, they take pride in making their little part of the city clean and spotless. For example, it's quite common to see the Japanese people come out of their house and clean the streets, clean the sidewalks, not just in front of their own house, but also in the playgrounds, for instance. I was in Sendai, which is kind of up from Tokyo, in a playground playing with my son, and we saw some just Japanese older people just come out of their houses and they just came to the park and they were cleaning the autumn leaves out, making again the park nice. They were not government employees, they're just normal people, and that is incredible. The place is spotless. Incredible shopping. So again, the yen, the Japanese currency, is at its lowest point in history probably, and you'll have a lot of bang for your buck for buying then stuff in Japan. So you can get all types of cool stuff at really good prices. So we're talking about not just gadget and electronics, which are famous in Japan, but then some traditional craftsmanships, things like that. So for example, I got a camera, I got lenses for the camera, I got the Apple Watch, some souvenirs, and all that for a much better deal than I would do here in Europe, or it would even go to the US. Again, it's really good time to go and buy stuff in Japan. And keep in mind that Japan has a 10% sales tax that will be waived in the spot in a lot of retailers the moment you show your passport. And I'm in a way cursing myself for not getting more stuff when I was there. Then there's no safer place in the world. So the world is in chaos, but in Japan, you'll be good. I haven't been to a safer place in my whole life, I can tell you that. It's incredible that for a country that is, again, this big and there's so much people living here, so much population, you will be assured of your physical safety and that of your stuff, and it's a completely not issue. No problem on that. I can testify this firsthand. I was in Sendai, again, a lot of things happening in Sendai, and I was about to board the bullet train with my wife and kids, and I realized that I was missing my little sling bag, which incidentally had among other important items my passports and those of my wife and the 2 kids. So it's like, ouch, like you don't really want to lose that. And honestly, I never lost anything traveling. But hey, if there's one place in the world you should be losing stuff, it's likely Japan, because 30 minutes later the police came to me and handed me it back, and he had all my stuff, my iPad, my cash included, and I was like, oh my god, I'm such a dumb gaijin. In any case, moving forward, I will not travel without one of those AirTags in each of my bags, but again, I was so in peace of mind in a way that this happened in Japan and not somewhere else, because if there's one thing you don't want to lose is the passports and these sort of things. It was like, oh my god. And speaking about kids, the last point I want to touch on is that Japan is a great place to go with kids. Look, in 2023, where in Asia, if you want to go to Asia, is there a better place to go with kids? And I would say Japan is the place to go. It's not only cheap, it's not only just safe, it's also great value, has a million attractions, and it's just perfect. My 3-year-old absolutely loved it. Like the whole idea of hopping into the bullet trains, that was a hit. Also, they had a lot of playgrounds, so he was happy playing in the playgrounds. But I also went to some of the key attractions that I mentioned. He loved the Nintendo World, he loved the snow monkeys, and the food was great. So even him being a 3-year-old that was quite picky, still like food was perfect. I can't stress it enough. Now is a great time to go to Japan. Thank you for watching, and in this video over here you'll see me talking from a temple in Koyasan up there in the mountains in Japan. Cheers!